7,744 speed, that is insane! Hey everyone, it's Armor Gaming, welcome back to my channel, and welcome to Monster Legends, welcome to a monster analysis on Bombeta. If you've seen this monster in the Monstergram, you'd probably be freaking out because when you see that speed stat, and considering that most Mythics have a speed stat of 5,000, 6,000, you might be freaking out, like this is the fastest monster in the game, but let me kind of bring you back to reality. Anytime you see something in the game that seems too good to be true, just absolutely insanely crazy, you should err with a side of caution, because if we just scroll over, what do you notice about the monster? The powers are 7,000, the speed is, like I said, like 5,000, 6,000. So it looks like with this monster in the Monstergram, SocialPoint just kind of messed up the power and the speed. So this monster has a speed stat of 5632, which is the same as this monster, there's a monster over here, as Heist. So nothing too crazy, nothing too phenomenal about it. And then the power is actually impressive, 7744. That's actually as much as Hardy, so highest power in the game. So yeah, I just want to start with that. Don't freak out anytime something crazy, you see something super crazy like that. We just gotta wait for SocialPoint to release official information. So with that being said, the official monster sheet has been released, so we're gonna go ahead and analyze this monster. And so this information is from the official Monster Legends SocialPoint forum. Alright, Bombeta is the first lab-created cosmic monster. Dr. Victor was tasked with the mission of creating a monster who would light the way through the network of portals that originated from the explosion of the distant star. To create Bombeta, our favorite scientist used the cells of the two brightest creatures in Monster Legends, the light wizard Yentek and the celestial artifact Clipium. He mixed them with a pinch of stardust and voila! However, Dr. Victor didn't take into account the effect that manipulated stardust can have on you upon returning back through the portal which you came from. Will Bombeta be all that pure? So he's a light monster that might not be that pure. In fact, if we look at the books, he's actually a villain monster. Alright, let's see what this monster says. He's a light tank with Mega-Taunt skills. He can increase durability by healing himself by 50%, boost allies by removing negative effects and giving life regen, or trouble an enemy by applying Sunburn and Daze. Gotta love Sunburn and Daze. This is what I like to call soft deny. Anything that reduces accuracy on the enemy, specifically once you get into blind and above, that is soft deny because it's crazy the amount of time the enemy misses. And they're using up their skill, they're activating the cooldown on the skill when they use it, and if they miss, it is awesome. Sunburn also reduces damage, or also takes away damage, or deals damage to the enemy, so they lose HP. Bombeta has an evolving trait. At rank 0, he's hardened. Umbrella trait, good to have, 20% chance to not get hit with negative effects. At rank 1, you become blind, immunity, immune to blind, so no total blind, no blind, minor blind, any of that. And rank 3, you get Mega-Taunt at the start of every battle. So yes, this is officially our Daedalus Cosmic. Daedalus is the only mythic monster that applies Mega-Taunt at the start of the battle. But now we have our cosmic monster that can do the same. So I foresee Daedalus being used less and less, especially because Daedalus overall hasn't been that interesting. I wasn't a big fan of him other than the Mega-Taunts. But now we're getting this monster, and I imagine it's going to be a frat event again, so a lot of players are going to be able to get this monster. So, yeah, let's get into this monster. Let's see what he has. I already kind of talked about everything. So starting things out with a life stat, we have a life stat of 77,210. This is officially the tankiest monster tied with Hardy. That is a huge life stat, 77,210. And then we have a power stat of 7744, which is also tied with that of Hardy, the highest power stats. Wait a minute, the stats are exactly tied with Hardy. And so the speed stat is the lowest of all the cosmics, tied with, once again, Hardy, Thunder Kong, and Heist. So very interesting, the exact same stats as Hardy, except he is a tanky monster, whereas Hardy is more of an attacker. So, let's see, we already talked about the Hardy, immune to blind, and Mega-Taunt. This monster can hold double armor relic, so maybe like double Thetis' armor, it just makes it harder to kill this monster. Villains, Evil Legions, and Families book. Okay, let's move on. Basic attacks. First of all, the first thing you notice is this monster does have 2-0 cooldown skills, so even if you get hit with CDA, and to be honest, most of the time this monster will probably be absorbing a CDA, you could potentially run one of these skills. You have Celestial Destroyer, which deals moderate light damage. A 40 damage 0 cooldown skill is pretty nice. And again, the fact that as your Mega-Taunt monster, you might absorb the fast Kodama or Siamis activating cooldowns on you, it's nice for you to have an attack. Typically, what you want to run a Mega-Taunt monster is 3 team speed, 1 life, 2 team speed. Depending on how good your runes are, maybe you can do a single strength on this monster and you kind of rainbow him. Strength, life, team speed. Different variations to run this monster. But yeah, with that being said, Celestial Destroyer, 40 damage. Magic Technology deals low light damage to all enemies. Would have been a good time for a magic attack, right? It's even called Magic Technology. But this is an AoE version. Never really a reason to run Magic Technology, so no need to run that. Let's get into Tier 1. We have Lighting Up the Darkness. Removes negative effects from itself. Applies life regen to itself. Requires cooldown. I am a fan of the fact that it cleanses on itself and that it applies life regen to itself. But I don't think I would run this skill, or I don't think I would recommend you to run this skill. Again, your biggest issue is probably cooldown activation. So there is an argument to, hey, you know what? Once that one turn passes, if you have any dots on you, it is better to cleanse them. So even though I'm not a fan of the skill, you could consider running it just depending on the situation, the kind of monsters you're facing. Even if you're facing someone that can possess you. If you get possessed, right, Blackfeather's going to be in the game. If he does possession, maybe you do a sub-skill and you cleanse. So it could be useful. It could actually be useful. Moving on, you have the Brightest Villain. Yep, he's a villain. Applies Sunburn to all enemies, applies Taunt to itself. I gotta say I'm a big fan of this because you're applying the Taunt skill to yourself and you're applying the Sunburn to all of the enemy monsters, which damages and reduces the accuracy, which is what I'm a bigger fan of. So, 0 damage, 2 turn cooldown, 36 stamina. Moving on, we have Blinding Punch. I like that this is on a 1 turn cooldown, by the way. Deals very heavy light damage to an enemy, applies Sunburn in Daze. Oh, I thought this monster was going to have a Sunburn in Daze AoE. It is just a single target. Okay. Honestly, I'm still a fan of it. I like that you're reducing accuracy on an enemy monster. So the Daze and the Sunburn, heavy light damage on top of that on a 1 turn cooldown, that is fine with me. So typically what I would say, if you do get hit with CDA, you could on turn 1 Celestial Destroyer an enemy monster and then Blinding Punch another enemy monster on your next turn, and maybe that's that final punch you need to knock out the enemy. So I am a fan of it. Solar Flare deals moderate light damage to all enemies, applies Daze. So we do have an AoE Daze. And the thing about having a taunt monster that is there to absorb attacks, you don't really want them to do the attacking, right? You don't need them to do the attacking. You need them to survive. You need them to reduce accuracy on the enemy, to apply dots on the enemy. So already we've seen that this monster can self-apply taunt, cleanse if it needs to, and give a life regen. This monster can reduce accuracy with Daze and Sunburn on a single monster, or you can just AoE Daze everyone. So I think the skill set is pretty good so far. And we haven't even talked about skills group 3. So we have Warming Light, removes negative effects and applies life regen to all allies. Very nice skill. Warming Light, it's a cleansing. I love when monsters have cleansing, especially when there's so many effects in the game nowadays. Every single monster attacks you, plus does something. Maybe you get hit with Drowned. Maybe you get hit with Stamina Leak. Maybe you have a Sunburn. Maybe you have a Curse. You know, Blackfeather does a lot of Curse. So it's very nice that you can cleanse from your whole team. Also, remember, you have the Harden trait, so 20% of the time, you will not get hit with a Possession or a Stun or a Freeze. So if your monster isn't hit and your allies are hit, Warming Light cleanses that, and then your monster is free to attack, and it's a regen on top of that. But the bad thing about this is the hefty stamina cost, that 68 stamina cost. And this monster doesn't inherently have any relics that can automatically regenerate stamina. You know, I mean, you could do Nabota's armor, but you'd have to take the damage, or you'd have to take the hit. But I think the stamina cost is high, but it's still worth running on this monster. And then we have Shine of the Bulb, which applies Mega-Taunt to itself, heals itself by 50%. A way to reinstate your Mega-Taunt when it's inevitably going to get cleansed, let's be honest. I think SocialPoint kind of played it smart by releasing Ignis right away. Ignis has skills that can remove positive effects from the enemy team. He has 2 skills that can do that. So, what's going to happen is maybe you start off with Mega-Taunt, Ignis cleanses it, you apply Mega-Taunt again, and then he can cleanse it again. But that's why you also have a Taunt skill. So honestly, I'm a huge fan of the skill set on this monster. I'm a fact that you have dots, accuracy reduction, you have a way to cleanse. Overall, I'm a big fan of the skill set. I am looking forward to this monster. Let's talk about the ultimate. Eureka deals moderate light damage, applies Sunburn to enemies, and Mega-Taunt. Wait, Mega-Taunt to itself. Wait. Deals moderate light damage to enemies, applies Sunburn to enemies, and Mega-Taunt to itself. I hope you do not Mega-Taunt yourself, because that would be a bad ult. Mega-Taunt to itself. Yeah, heals itself by 100. Oh my gosh, I am not a fan of the ultimate anymore. I hope that's a typo, like with, like who else is it? With Ignis that does Hammerfall and attacks a single ally. I hope that is a typo that's Mega-Taunt to the enemy, even if it's just one. But I don't think it is a typo. So yeah, not a fan of the ult. But yeah, the way you're going to ruin this monster is going to be 3 team speed, or most likely 2 team speed and a single life. But again, because you got to counter the meta, and the meta is going to be cooldown activation for a while, and you know, Mega-Taunt is going to absorb that, it's not useful to have a monster that is just absorbing attacks and can't do anything. So that's what I'm saying. There is an argument to maybe you give this monster a Strength Rune and use Celestial Destroyer and follow it up with Blinding Punch. That way, players are like, oh, it's a CDA. Nope, I am still going to attack you. So not to mention, again, we have the likes of Ignis, we have the likes of Ondana. They can remove the positive effects, so they can remove Mega-Taunts, and then they can AoE something. So you got to watch out for that stuff. But skill set wise, off the top of my head, if you don't have to worry about CDA, you run all of skills group 3, you run Solar Flare, and you run Blinding Punch. Yeah, I would say that. I don't think you need a single taunt skill. Yeah, the issue with Brightest Villain and Mega-Taunts is I genuinely don't think you need both. The issue of applying just taunt to yourself is obviously that now your allies are susceptible to getting hit with the AoE, whereas with the Shine of the Bulb, you absorb everything. But again, there's situations when one can come in handy over the other. Now, considering cooldown activation is a huge issue in the game, the other skill set you would do is Blinding Punch, Celestial Destroyer, and then I would say Warming Light and the Mega-Taunts. So the bad thing about this skill set is you give up the AoE Sunburn, so the Brightest Villain. Yeah, even in my first skill set, I don't think I recommended that. Gosh, it's tough with this monster because ideally you tell yourself you want AoE Sunburn and you want AoE Daze and all that, but you also have to think about what is going to be the most valuable as a monster that can't really do the attacks, right? This monster is there to absorb attacks. So put yourself in that mindset. If this monster is only there to absorb attacks, I have a denier to deny, I have an attacker to attack, do I really need this monster to sunburn the enemy? No, I think Blinding Punch is better because maybe your attacker kills one monster or focuses on one monster, and this monster delivers the final punch with Blinding Punch. Maybe that sunburn takes him down, so maybe you don't need an AoE. Or maybe the enemy monster is about to hit you, but you sunburn and daze, and just that accuracy reduction prevents the monster from landing an attack. So when it comes to this kind of tanky monster, this kind of support monster in a way, you have to think about what can I do to help my team out. So the best thing is Warming Light to cleanse negative effects, right? Shine of the Bulb is needed to reapply Mega-Taunts and to protect yourself because you got to stay alive. So that's where the heals by 50% comes in handy. So I think undisputably tier 3 is the way to go. And then you ask yourself, okay, if I'm probably going to go last in the turn order, I don't need AoEs really. Hopefully by then the attacker has killed someone. So that's why you want Blinding Punch. That applies a dot, that does a sunburn, that does the daze. That's awesome. So you have 3 skills down. Fourth and final skill, well, Solar Flare dazes everyone. That's awesome. Again, reducing accuracy. Brightest Villain, that's a dot to everyone, reduces accuracy, and you taunt. So if for any reason you can't, it's better for you to, maybe your Mega-Taunt got removed. If for some reason it's better to taunt than to Mega-Taunt, then go for that. Maybe, you know, the enemy attacker is going to hit you really hard. I'd rather reduce the accuracy, so I'd go with the Daze and Sunburn, but to each their own. Lighten Up the Darkness, again, I think you can do without that one. But there are situations, again, where that self-skill could come in handy, because the problem with Warming Light is if you're possessed, then you're going to move negative effects from the enemy team and give them life regen. So everything has its pros and cons. And then again, Celestial Destroyer, I only like it for the fact that it is 0 cooldown, 40 damage. This monster has one of the highest powers in the game, or tied for the highest power in the game. So there's situations where you know for a fact you're going to get hit with CDA. Again, you are a light monster. You're going to be taking on, I'm trying to think off the top of my head, light mythics that can do cooldown activation. No one comes to mind right now. But just in the Mythic on Mythic era, if you're taking this monster into PvP, undoubtedly you're going to face Kodamas. You're going to face definitely Ondanas. You're going to face definitely Siamese, fully ranked up. So cooldown activation is an issue. Glamhead, at least for now. So yeah, guys, that's what I think about this monster. Overall, I am a big fan. It looks like the monsters are evolving. And don't freak out, this monster is not going to be super fast like we originally thought from the Monstergram. So just a good lesson in, just wait for SocialPoint to release official information before making any kind of like claim about, oh, this is overpowered, this is that, this is that. We just gotta wait till everything is actually set in stone. So that being said, guys, that is gonna be my analysis on Bombeta. I am so looking forward to this monster. So any thoughts you guys have about the monster, let me know in the comments below. Thank you very much, and remember to subscribe.